Today I'm going to give you two massive tips that'll completely unlock feeble grinds for you so you can get into them so much more consistently and grind way longer than you are now. I'll also go over the main mistakes people make when they're trying to learn feeble grinds so you can avoid them. So if you've either been trying to learn feeble grinds or improve your feeble grinds, then you've come to the right place. So foot placement is going to be the same as your standard ollie. So my back foot I like to have right on the tip of the tail, front foot right underneath the bolts of the front truck. I like to come pretty parallel at the rail, but with the slightest angle. So as I'm popping and getting ready to meet my truck on the rail, my momentum is leading me to the lock point. I don't have to jump backwards and scoop into the grind. So parallel, but the slightest angle just to get you over the rail and into the right position. Now, my biggest key to locking into feeble grinds every single try is ollieing and aiming to lock in your heel side wheel on top of the rail right there. This is one of the main keys to the feeble grind and definitely the main key to locking in every try. So as you're on that slight angle, popping to get up over the rail, you're aiming for this wheel. You want your heel to be above the wheel, lock straight in to the heel side wheel with your front truck just on the other side of the rail. That's the biggest key to the lock-in, and that's what's going to have you locking in every single try and super comfortable when you get up on top of it. That back truck locked into the heel side wheel, hard up, and it's sitting right on top of that. Now, my biggest tip for holding feeble grinds longer than you've ever held them before is having the majority of your weight on your back foot over that heel side wheel and leaning back. This part's going to be pretty scary if you haven't mastered the lock-in yet. So both of these tips work together to lock in properly and hold the grind long. You need to master the lock-in, aiming for that heel side wheel. And once you've got that lock-in down, I'd say 70% of my weight is on my back truck and I'm just leaning back. That's what's going to provide the least amount of resistance because you're cranking that wheel down hard on the lock-in. So leaning back will reduce some of that resistance and have you just locking in and grinding for as long as you want to. Now, my second biggest tip on holding longer grinds and grinding longer is going to sound pretty weird, but it unlocks people's feebles when I tell them this, and it's to point your toes down. And look what that does when you point your toes down. Now, if your feeble's flat, what pointing your toes down is going to do is shift it to the side like that. So you're not exactly lifting your heels, but you're pushing down on your toes, which is going to kink your board to the side and help you pinch even harder on top of the rail. And that's going to make sure your toe side wheel of your front truck is hard up against the rail. Your heel side wheel on the back truck is hard up. So you've created such a sharp pinch, and that's just going to allow you to hold the grind so much longer in that position there. Very similar to when you do a backside 50. Same position on the back truck, the heel side wheel, and then the toe side wheel is locked in hard up there. So it creates a really sharp pinch for you to hold. But on a feeble, this wheel is on the other side and hard up against the rail if you've got your toes pointing down like that. That's my biggest secret to feebles and the lock in there. Pointing your toes down to stay in it. Now, something you're gonna have to keep in mind when you're coming to the end of the rail and trying to come off, because you're on such a harsh pinch on the side there, you really need to push your heel down on the back truck to lift up and come out. Because once you get to the end of the rail, both feet have their toes pointing down, so you're in a sharp pinch. If you just go to lift up and come off, look at the angle that your board's at. It'll just flip over and land primo or flip over completely. So it's super important to push your heel on the back foot down as you're coming out to level out your board and support it as it comes out so it doesn't flip over. I'm gonna do a bunch more feeble grinds so you can see it from all different angles to see the technique that I'm using, where I'm locking in the heel side wheel, I'm pointing my toes down and I'm leaning back. So hopefully that image sticks in your head and you'll understand what to do next time you're trying to learn feeble grinds. So that is exactly how I feeble grind. I learned feeble grinds when I was super young and I've been doing them for years. And I feel like I've pretty much mastered them at this point. So keeping those tips in mind of aiming to lock your heel side wheel in, leaning back with 70% of the weight on your back foot and pointing your toes down really is going to have you locking into the deepest pinched feebles and grinding as long as you really want to. Take your time going through these tips and these motions and start at the end of the rail just to get used to the lock in. And as you get more comfortable, you can start hopping on the rail more early and get used to grinding and holding it longer. And once you master the basic feeble and get used to locking in every try and holding the grind longer and longer, you can start to progress into 180 out variations, hopping out of the rail early on either side, or different combos on top of the rail. Now, using all of these techniques I've taught you today is going to help you avoid the common mistakes that people make when they're learning this trick. There's two massive things that I see people doing wrong when they're trying to learn feebles. First one being slipping into a board slide when they're trying to lock into a feeble. This means that they're turning their board too much and they're not aiming for that heel side wheel. If you think about ollieing up, locking into your back heel side wheel with the toe side wheel of your front truck on the outer side, hard up against the rail, then there's no way that you can slip out into a board slide. I think about a feeble as a grind that is just outside of a 50-50. So you shouldn't be anywhere near a board slide position. Second thing is what I already taught you guys not to do, and that's their board flipping over into primo or just flipping over completely at the end. How to overcome this is going to be pushing your heel down as you lift up and come out of the grind. Because if you just get to the end of the rail and try and lift up without putting the pressure down on your heel, it's very likely your board's going to flip over. So let me know how these techniques help you guys, and if you're able to improve your feeble grinds or land your first one. I'd really love to know if I've just helped you learn your first feeble grind, so let me know in the comments below. And check out this video next to learn how to backside 50-50 on round rails.